So, Trinonawai, Agus Fáilte Gachile, you are so welcome this evening as you join us for this training and information webinar designed to support you in the preparation phase of your camps and also as you move forward to facilitate your camps in the coming weeks. We wish to start by acknowledging your commitment to the DEIS Camp programme to the benefit of the students in your care, and we also wish to acknowledge that while we are here this evening to help to outline the administration and reporting elements of the camp and also to share ideas around the literacy, numeracy, digital literacy and the Irish strands that underpin them, we are so keenly aware of the fact that you are all best placed to know and understand the students in your care, particularly when it comes to the experiences for each and every student in attendance. The camp programme design gives you the autonomy to develop a camp schedule that maximises the learning experiences for the duration of your camps, and more importantly, to maximise the enjoyment for all, as is the total intention of the summer camp model. I wish to acknowledge and to introduce to you our panel here this evening. Familiar faces to most of you who have availed of this training previously. I wish to take this opportunity to offer my sincere appreciation to our presenters and moderators this evening. A lot of work does go on behind the scenes as things need to happen in order to facilitate the smooth running of the DEIS Camp programme year on year. And our panel here this evening play a really central role in all of this. I wish to welcome Ultan McMahon, my colleague and director in Dublin West Education Centre, who support the Campi programme, and I wish to mention also Siobhan Kerr, who is the administration point of contact there. I'd like to introduce Kate Liston, who convenes and coordinates the training element of the camp so ably, representing for the school inclusion wing of IDEA. Her contributions and commitment are invaluable to the design of the training element of this programme. We are also joined tonight by Stephen McGovern, representing also for IDEA. Stephen will be sharing insights on literacy, numeracy, and other learning for enjoyment elements of the camp, and we appreciate his time and expertise. Also joining us is David O'Callaghan, who's been a long-standing member of the DEIS Camp design team. David, as a school principal in a large DEIS primary in County Louth, will be sharing ideas on camp activities in the DEIS school setting. Also with us are our two best mates, the two team members who are here to support throughout the camp journey for all of you. We have Dahio Muraku, coordinator for Dublin West Education Centre, and Alan Nelson, coordinator for Navan. Both are on hand to offer their advice and support at all stages of your camp journeys, and their contact details will be shared with you this evening. I'd like to underscore that our role this evening is in support for you all as you facilitate and manage your DEIS camps. Our role begins this evening with this training event, but continues right up until your final camp reports are submitted. All of the team here this evening wish you the very best of enjoyment and fun as you engage in the camp experience for 2026. So before I hand over to Ultan, I will mention that if you've any questions or queries that haven't been answered this evening in the webinar, please pop them into the Q&A and we're on hand to moderate those throughout. So in the interest of prioritising your time at this tired end of the school year, I will happily hand over to Ultan to continue with the presentation this evening. Thank you so much, Ultan.
And it is my great pleasure to join you here this evening. Aidan, if you'd like to hit the record button so it'll be there as a facility for people. Just to say, where I am, the sun is shining. I hope it is where ye are too, but the disadvantage is we're looking out in the sun. But we hope not to keep you too long tonight, but give you enough information that you can go off informed and ready to run your camps efficiently and enjoy them yourselves, because that is key to this, that the teachers running the camps will enjoy the experience, because the whole thrust of this is a summer camp. A summer camp is there to be enjoyed by the children who are taking part. And as somebody said last night, for a lot of the children we are helping in this summer camp format, It's the only camp they'll attend this summer. So our job is to make it as fun, as enjoyable for them as ever possible. And the best way to do that is to enjoy it ourselves. So, without further ado, our job tonight again is to provide a kind of a wraparound service for you guys to give you all the information and tools you need to run a camp. Okay, so we'll do that this evening. You'll leave with lots of innovative ideas, lots of applications that you can use in your camp, lots of ideas. Say, oh, that would work in my camp, but a wee bit differently or whatever. But there'll be lots of scope for that. The aims, if we flick on to the next one, please, because you'll have got those documents from the department, and the department will set out the rules for these. Ours is just to support you in running them. So our learning aims are our aims and learning outcomes. Don't forget the two big nuggets of these, and they're built into the documents that you receive, is building confidence and connections. So you know yourselves, guys, who is best placed to run these camps and know what your community needs. You do, the teachers, because you're working every day in the schools that you serve. And that community belonging is really, really important. So when the kids come into us for their summer camps, that sense of community that we build around our schools is strengthened even more. And everybody can relax a small bit. It's not like the normal school day. And they really, really enjoy that. So we're building confidence and connections. That's the theme the department has chosen. And it's a good one. Confidence and connections. So the aims of, we're running very fast there now. the aims of them, don't forget, this evening you're going to become familiar with the vision and the principles of it. Your teaching approaches, prep and assessment, really important. And you're exploring opportunity, resources and ideas, and there's some wonderful ideas. So the next one on, please, is the next one. There we go. The rationale. So, and I've kind of covered this generally, but what jumps out from this slide for everybody is, look, it's linked in with the school's DEIS action plan. So make sure there's a link in with the action plan. It's steeped in high quality learning experience in the classrooms, in a virtual environment and an outdoor environment. So you got those three: in the class, in a virtual environment and in outdoor environments. Don't be one bit afraid to bring them outdoors. We were talking earlier on about a party for some kids in a house, and sure, if they're outdoor in the rain, they don't mind one bit. They'll have great crack. So do use the outdoors, and to promote the pupils' involvement and design and organisation of the programme, and the parents too. You can get them involved in co-creating ideas for the camp, and that'll give them great ownership of it. It'll give their community great ownership of it. So moving on then to the next slide are the aims of the DEIS Summer Camps programme. So that building relationships with peers, teachers to support the connection with the school is really important. You don't need me or anybody else here to tell you how important that is. The DEIS schools in particular thrive on those connections with parents, and a lot of you are lucky enough to have homeschool liaison coordinator in your schools, and that helps that, so you can dip into that person's role and ask them to contribute as well. Provide a variety of rich educational experience. So we're talking about the classroom, the virtual and the outdoors, but creativity is really important in this, and that space for the children to be creative is very, very important. These are literacy and numeracy camps. Okay, literacy, numeracy and digital literacy as well that's thrown onto it, and all these are important, but an over academics wouldn't be really in keeping with the theme of the camp. These camps are fun for kids. They're to be enjoyed by everybody involved in them. So the last bit is fostering the pupils' confidence. Some of the kids have no problems with confidence. Some of them that appear they have problems with confidence or have no problem with confidence actually do, and some are shy. This is a great environment to bring that out and let them thrive in the more relaxed and the more convivial atmosphere that you'll create on your camps. Okay, so I think that's my bit done until the end, and we're moving on then to responsibilities of the Board of Management. Is that me or is that yourself? No,
Sin
it is
mise
me.
altan sin
It's
mise
yourself,
fáilte
I was thinking.
tuachtarm, yeah. Listen, Shaver has to go into
Can
the
you,
good. August, listen me, fault the road Galer. Look, we need to get this out in the open right now. We're the messengers. Uh, Huge thanks to Dr. Adine in Navan Education Centre, to Alan, who is incredible over so many years, to Ulton in Dublin West. Our job is to get you, our colleagues, where we spent 35, 40 years as principals and working in our desk schools, to enable you to engage tonight in this training so that we can do what we do every year. And by God, we've been doing it so many years. Agus reached our Moicha, Steve. Thank you so much for everything that you are doing. And I've already seen there's 2 or 3 questions inside there. Honestly, those questions are not part of what we are. We can't answer that. We're there as a support. Our job is to be there. Alan and I, last year, and Alan would say this, there's only 2 weeks in the summer where we're not running camps. Some of you are starting, believe it or not, within 12 days on the 22nd. And we know that there have been difficulties. Neil Bua Gondua, there's a lovely Irish saying, which is like, I suppose, Jane Fonda used to go at no pain, no gain. Well, I suppose it was a different series, but from us, we're here to support. And in every one of your schools, looking at the core values of what you have, those core values come through your DEIS plan, as Alton said. And that's where the aims and objectives come. And look into that DEIS plan, because you're going to the core values of what that DEIS plan is when you look at what the school stands for. And who's up there? On Board van Stierte. And the Board of Management, it's very important that the Board of Management is aware if there are any changes whatsoever in any of the planning. Now, we have prepared what's called a checklist, and the checklist will be linked, and we'll send in some links into the chats later on. At the start of a folder, when an inspector comes in, if they open this folder, they see you have a checklist, and they know that the policies you've been putting together, whether you've had to change your DLP or your DDLP, and if that's the case, because a lot of you have not yet received the new training in that, please go to the IDA website, because the Board of Management will need to know if you've changed your DLP or your DDLP. And just a little word of warning, if at any time the DLP is not in situ, there has to be a DLP or a DDLP in the school once the students are actually in there with you during the camps. So all necessary arrangements, insurance, suitable accommodation, appointment of the organizer and manager. And I know there was a question earlier on there. Again, if there's any exceptional questions, please just send that directly to, shall we say, online, on the addresses that you've been given with the letters which have come to the school, particularly on the, today is the 10th, it would have come on the 8th and on the 7th. So the board is there for the financial oversight of the camp. You will deliver all of this in your final report, which you send to Joan, who is in Navan Education Centre. And for those of you that can't be Gaigetan Shanacht, and by the way, there's over 600, and I think we're nearly up to 660 at this moment, a Nacht. Remember, that final report, get it in quickly, because that's something that is evidence also for the board, should they wish to go look at it for the FFSU. The spending of the grant is on authorised payments only. And that's just again to say that if, for example, you're doing, and we'll come back to it, something like the school lunch, that has been clarified in the letters which the department have sent to you in the last couple of days. And the important thing is, should you decide not to go with your provider of school lunch, or should you decide to go to other provider and go through the necessary process as laid out, you can also decide to have your own healthy, it's a very important word, healthy and nutritious lunch brought in by the children themselves. And the board is responsible for the records and the original receipts that need to be maintained, because we're dealing with public money here. And the camp report, as I said, is prepared with everything included and sent in as quickly as possible. Again, some of you are starting in 12 days. So, Tá Bord van Stichte an, and they've got the responsibility. But remember, a good carpenter measures twice, cuts once. So if in doubt, at this particular moment, speak to the person who's in charge of the camp, that's the organizer, because once the camp starts, the manager takes over. Next slide, Liddell. So, when it comes to child safeguarding, I just said it again, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, except to say, you cannot repeat this enough. At any time there are children in the camps, there has to be a DLP or a DDLP on site. And even if the students themselves go out for a day, or they go to the library, and I know Alan will be talking about this, or if they're going out on a trip, the manager, the person in charge, needs to be on site in case an inspector will come, or if there's a call, or if anything happens, so that there's a direct line of communication. So at all times, once the person takes over on the morning of the camp, from the organizer to what we call the camp manager, which is a slightly different name this year, but let's just keep it simple. That person needs to be in situ at all times. And the Beacon Alta procedures are implemented, adhered to during the summer programme, and the principal and Board of Management are informed of any concern or particular incident of bullying. You are following your DEIS plan. Even though this is a compass áraigh that's into Ivris, agus literach, this numeracy, literacy, well-being, digital, and the important thing is the use of the Gaeilge as a natural language, you are still following through on your normal policies. And that's why it's important that you ensure that if you haven't received the training on safeguarding, go to the DEIS site if you have to change your DLP or your DDLP. Next slide, Leatherhull. So, the responsibilities of the camp organizer and the manager. At this moment in time, the only person in your school who is actually functionally working is the camp organizer. The camp organizer needs to get the policies in place, needs to get the folder in place, needs to ensure that that communication that Alton spoke about is going on, that the children have that advocacy, that agency, that voice to contribute, that you're putting together on IRIN, the team that you have, and that you're putting this team together to be able to work with you for the full week. And therefore, who is it? This camp organizer guides and makes recommendations in relation to the selection of pupils in consultation with your DEIS plan and those most at need. Then you work collaboratively with the team in planning the camp. You ensure the pupils' well-being and learning, again, is linked to the work of the school and the core values of your DEIS plan. And later on, we'll talk about Is Féidir Lum, Is Féidir Ling, the training which is going on right now throughout the country. And then what do? You provide opportunities for the camp team participants to share outcomes with the school's community during the year. But that's important because the community within the school who are parents also are part of this. And that's why we often say, with the strict numbers that are there this year, 1, 12, 2, 24, 3, 36, you've already received that from the department. It is important to know that these are the numbers by which the funding will be made available to the actual schools. And the role of the summer school, shall we say, organizer is to get everything. If I was to put it simply, the organizer is like getting the Irish ladies team onto the field last night. The organizer prepares the team, trains the team, gets a nutritionist, gets everything, gets the buses, gets the whole lot, puts the whole folder together, and then brings them to France. And then the school manager is the person that puts them out on that field and then plays the game. And that's where the roles, now the same person can be that, but the reality is that the role of the summer program manager is carried out then in accordance with the most important thing we see here, which is, we call it LABL, Leg on Bleeding Law of Lower, or what we might say is RTBM, read the bleeding manual, because the manual is your Bible. That's where you go to if you have any questions. And right now, the organizer is the person who's there. Very important. Next slide, please. And we'll be going through this. And this is the checklist we talked about. And there will be a link to this checklist. When you open, as I said, that folder, an inspector walks in and says, Conastanto, and the inspector, by the way, will look at level 1, child protection, and will say, look, how is this happening in the school? Make sure that they see on the front door, who's the DLP, who's the DDLP. Make sure that at all times you are accessible. And this checklist, when you open a folder, it's like saying, this is my thesis, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the folder, these are all the documents that are relevant. These are the ones that are necessary. Here's all the information that you need. And that cuts out a lot of the, particularly with young teachers or new teachers, because we were all there once. The last thing, let's be blunt, last thing you need as a new teacher is when you're inside the classroom and you're in full flow, someone strange walks into your classroom. But if someone does, then the important thing is show what your DEIS plan stands for. Celebrate, as Alton said, what the children are doing. Buin lán tanabas, buin súpas, bíoch an réige mar chuide. Bíoch sin mar árán no dán rodégant. Or you might even go, and you'll hear me speaking about this, to create your own song on suno.com, S-U-N-O, S-U-N-O.com. Go to YouTube. How do children write songs on suno.com? With everything from Taylor Swift's music right down to who cares? It doesn't matter, rock and roll. How can they put songs together? But go to your checklist, tick off everything that's in there, see what's there, and put it at the front of your folder. Once you have that, you have prepared to prepare. Perfect practice makes perfect. Kate, start on a little. Next slide. So, the responsibility of the camp teachers, which is the vast majority of you. And now we're up to 642. The selection of the pupils, and that's not easy this year. And we know that, but we are here to facilitate you, to be there for you. Alan and I will be at the end of a phone all the time at every camp, and we will call you and find out, is there anything we can do to assist you? That's what we do. And it's most important that when there are teachers there, if there's anything you need to ask us, please, ledver dul, queer glech oring. So the selection of the pupils comes with your principal, your homeschool community liaison, coordinator of the school, and like we said, 112, 224, 336. There's no such thing this year as 221. It's the numbers increase by 12, and this is what the department has sent out in your letters. Each teacher then is committed to a full week of camp. Now, we're conscious that teachers get sick. We know they do, but when you sign up, you're signing up for the 22.5 hours. You're signing up, as we say, for those 4 hours of teaching each day, and that 30 minutes, which is there for lunch and whatnot. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But each teacher signs up. But if you do need to have a sub, maybe have a sub handy, just like with the students. Keep a waiting list so that if a student falls out and you follow up, which is the camp manager, who will follow up on the phone. Hello, Mrs. O'Muraku, where is that dope dahi? Well, actually, Tasha Salaba. Get him out of that bleeding laba, August Oberlish, Dulhoun, because that's what the camp manager's job is to do. To ensure you're at all times up to that number. So have a few students to spare, and if you can have a teacher on call, please do so. In the English medium camps, teachers should integrate on Reige, and that's very often done through Clihi Egsula, or there might be a certain part. So again, on the links that we put up on the Padlet, which are incredible, there's so much there for you. And also we'll put a link to the Dropbox in Dublin West later on. There are various things you can do there bilingually with links to various websites like the Padlet that will actually empower you to be able to draw down certain activities, oscaige, that you can do maybe each day as a natural part of it being part of your camp and the language of the camp. And maybe you, part of your shop. If you catch them with those little tickets, maybe give them a ticket of Account Oscaige as well and say, that's great. But remember, Alton said it again, Gan Vru, Gan Stress. The camps are all about no pressure, no stress. Let them have fun. That's so important. But, Bíochain Gaeilge mar cuid de, and we'll come back. Next slide, please. And the length of the school day, which is my last one, Alan, before you jump in. Like we said, the activities for the DEIS literacy, numeracy, digital and wellbeing camps are provided for the 22.5 hours. We've put up a sample timetable. Again, you can see that sample and you can change that as you so wish. But it lays it out that there is 4 hours of instruction each day. And the camps don't start later than 10 a.m. In addition to the 4 hours, there's a total of 30 minutes set aside each day for fully supervised lunch break. The reason we say that is that in the past, sometimes you walk into a lunch break and it's mayhem. Well, that's great. There's nothing wrong with organized chaos. But if it isn't in the sense that there's no sense of safety, child protection and guard in there, the important thing is that this is a huge opportunity for learning, a huge opportunity for social development, for children to have an opportunity to speak to one another, to discuss things, to continue the work maybe they hadn't time to do that particular morning, whether it's playing games or whatever they're doing. So that structured the lunch break, 30 minutes is a wonderful time to also continue to be able to do what you are going to do for 5 days. And we know from the past, and Aidan would agree here, they are incredible. And I mean, Alan will tell you that the camps are incredible. So a healthy lunch must be provided. Again, please read the letters that came from the department sent directly to the school within the last 48 hours. And if your provider provides food, then that is included. If you need to get someone else, then there's a form for that and a procedure. And if not, as Ultim would have said last night, if you wish the children to bring their own lunch, please make sure that it is a healthy lunch, that it is a nutritious lunch. But where breakfast is provided, and this is important because we've come across this in the past, 18, and we've come across it often, where breakfast is provided, don't let that time eat into your 22.5 hours because it can't. If you're running a breakfast club, that is a separate time that cannot be included in the 22.5. So 4 hours per day, 30 minutes for the official lunch break, or it can be broken up like that. And then if there's a breakfast club that's there, that is on yourselves. So in Kester Shin, throw it in. Otherwise, though, Padlet and the links we're going to put in are where you can go to ensure that you're going to hit the ground running. But at this particular moment, the camp organizer should be in full flow. The last 100 meters of a 400 meters. And if it's a relay, the camp manager is now on the start line, ready to take over the relay baton. Alan, over to you, Achara.
Good evening, folks. Good to see you all. I see a lot of faces that have returned for camps again in 2026. Delighted that you've all come back to us. And for people that are doing camps for the first time this year, you're very welcome. And hopefully we'll make it all worthwhile for you and you're enjoying the training so far. It's my job now just to guide you through some of the additional guidance, or how can you get help and support if you're not sure about what's happening. Dahi has said this already, but one of the most important things, especially if you're just starting out, read the handbook from cover to cover. It's so helpful. It's got all the information in there. And if you're doing camp again for a second or third year, or you've been here for a long time, it's no harm to take a look at the handbook. There are slight changes that happen from year to year, and it's important that you familiarize yourself with all those things. For example, I always get lots of questions about what does a camp actually look like for someone starting out. Where am I going to find out the structure, the things that are expected of us? What am I supposed to be doing from day to day? Page 14 and 15 of the handbook has this overview. It talks about the different activities. It talks about how you can make a pupil co-designer of a camp, how you can bring the language or the activities of the camp into your new school year, and then how you can make well-being part of your camp. So even reading those 2 pages very quickly, a quick overview of what it's all about, and then you go into the more detail from there. If you still, after that, have more questions about what you're doing, if you're not sure of anything, if you need some support or guidance, the websites, the emails are up there for Navan and Dublin West. You can make contact there. I will also send an email to every camp that's taken part in the coming weeks, and you'll have my email address there. In there, I will incorporate some links, some advice, some activities you can do, and then you'll have my email address. If you then want further support, I'll be available. We can make arrangements for a phone call at a time that suits you, and we can talk through questions, queries, comments, compliments, complaints, any sort of difficulty you're having. I'm here to support you in that and try and make your camp a success and try and help you do that. Just before I show you the Padlet, another thing I have to do at this point, and Dahi has mentioned it already, I have to remind you that the inspectorate may visit a number of camps during the summer. They always do that, and we're happy with that. It's not, as Dahi said, it's not something to be concerned or worried about. It's positive for us. We need you guys to show off the wonderful work that's going on all over the country. Every single summer we're hearing fantastic stories of brilliant activities, brilliant camps. Kids are loving them, teachers are involved, teachers are enjoying them, and we want you just to show that off. What you do is, as Dahi said, the checklist is important. Nobody wants a visitor coming in and them feeling, oh, I'm not prepared or I'm not ready. The checklist is there. Once you've ticked all those boxes, then you move on to the important stuff. Show off your kids, show off your activities, make it fun, make it engaging. They will provide you with some feedback, and they'll also carry out their level 1 child protection check. Once you've done that, what we think is a great thing that you could do, and Dahi has mentioned this, but I want to go into a bit more detail here, link it to your DEIS planning. This is so important. It makes life easier for you. It can be in any area, whatever area you're planning on development in the new year, whatever your DEIS plan is going to be focused on when you come back to school in September, get it off the ground during your summer camp. It could be well-being, literacy, STEM, any of those things. A fantastic way to do this, and I've seen it in my own school, is to have a project that you begin in summer camp and you take that through to September. It could be focused, as I said, on any area, but it's a brilliant opportunity. You can make mistakes, you can get it right, you can get it wrong, you can find out what works, find out what excites the kids. If it's in well-being or STEM, or you can invent things, you can make things, you can do things during the summer camp that you can't do in the day-to-day running of a school. You're getting your parents involved, you pilot things, you test it out, and then the kids that are on the summer camp, they go back into the class in September, they're feeling empowered, they're feeling involved in something, they're able to tell their classmates, oh, we did this during summer camp and it was great fun, and oh, we're going to be learning about this because we did it in summer camp. The inspector are going to love that. It's what the DEIS camps are all about, linking it to the DEIS planning, making it work for you when you return to school in September. So that's a really, really important thing. So if you are worried about a visit, if you've got that link made, if you've got your checklist, there's nothing to be concerned about. It's positive, it's reassurance, and it's great for us because the inspectors see what's going on and give us the support that we need to continue that in the future. So go to the next slide there, please. Yeah, the Padlet. So as I said, this is my new best friend, the Padlet, recently updated. This is your one-stop shop for all the things you might need to run a successful summer camp. It begins with the documents, the nitty-gritty, the things I get questions about throughout the summer. The checklist is there, handbook is there, pupil booklet, camp report. I saw questions coming about this already. It's all in there. All the nitty-gritty stuff, all the reports, all the things that cause you a bit of hassle when you go looking for them in emails. They're all in there in one-stop shop in the Padlet. Use it, browse it, find the things you need, and then you can move on to what the literacy is there, numeracy, Tom Gael Gunshin, Tom Jagiri Gome on Gaelga le Clistal, Egna Campi, Litra Lina, Gome on Nask Shin, either on Litra Gaelga, August Litra Berla, le Clistal, August is Fidje Shin a Hasponch on a Posti, Egna Campi shop, Euron Gaelga, Goklo, Gaelga Navormul, Sport Tree Gaelga, Alien Tree Gaelga, Ian Oshko Fidjat and Gaelga Usoj, Egon Campa Berla, August on sort of stad as a horse on Gaelga into skull, a written a copy is figured in so ton of horse Nicola and Shin. Then we have EAL, digital tools, playful learning, well-being, the arts. There's links there for everything. So throughout the evening, we will refer to the Padlet, we'll refer to all these resources. What you might do is Mary's there and she's eyeing up STEM. She's going to say, I'm going to maybe do a lesson on that. Barry's going to look at literacy. The other teacher's going to look at Gaelga, and as you see things that might be suitable to you, because every summer camp's going to be different. There's no two summer camps the same throughout the country. People have different skills, people have different resources, people have different things that will interest them and their students. You pick them from the Padlet this evening, you start making your plan, discuss it with your colleagues tomorrow as you make plans during the future, and everybody has their area of expertise. Everybody has interest that they might like to do, and you link that to your dash planning, and the Padlet will help you to do that. So anything that you think is of interest, you can bookmark it tonight or collect it. And so that's the Padlet. That's me for now, folks. Gormila.
Thanks, Alan. I'm going to come in and we're going to start looking at the camp program framework. And you'll see from the documentation, the handbook, that there are 4 overarching principles that we're going to kind of take you down through this evening and going to give you a little bit of, I suppose, a little bit of professional learning, but I'm very conscious that all of you here present have a wealth of knowledge, and some of this will be just reminding you of things that you already know and maybe reinforcing some of the excellent practices that you already have going on in your schools. But again, a lot of it will be reminders of things that you really is a good solid practice that you already have going on in your classrooms and in camps that you have run in previous years. So as you see there, we have 4 overarching principles. There are learner outcomes, playful learning experiences, camp management, and varied learning environments. So the first one here, in the handbook for school, this is taken directly from the handbook, criteria here for camp management. And I don't need to go down through all of this because a lot of this was already touched on. So I just advise everybody, as Alan said, read the handbook because there are slight updates to it for this year. So read that handbook carefully. But everything that is on this slide has already been touched on by Alan and Dahi in the previous slides. Moving on there to parental involvement, and Alan is going to come back in here again, but there is an onus on the school to involve the parents in the planning process, and that can be done in a variety of ways. You might look at using a Google form. If you're fortunate enough to have a HSCL, they might engage with the parents as well and find out from the children some nice ideas around things that they had enjoyed from previous summer camps. I suppose knowledge of the children that you are engaging in these camps is really fundamental, and we know that from our guidance for teaching, learning and assessment and the updated version of it as well, that's the central pillar, and that translates into these DEIS summer camps as well. Knowing the children, and the children in your camp are different to the children in the camp 100 miles down the road as well. So you know your children, you are tapping into the parents to further build that knowledge of the children and know what are the really good engaging learning experiences that they've enjoyed in previous camps, or maybe, through the school day, or things that they are interested in. Make sure that the parents are informed of the themes and the activities that the camp will be engaged in, and especially the activities that they are welcome to attend and join in with, and be very mindful in I suppose, preparing some really nice engaging activities for them to maybe engage with as well. So things like show and tell could be something like that, a collection from the library, and allowing the pupils to safely showcase their achievements from the camp. A reading list can be provided for a library resource, and we were only speaking earlier that he was talking about somebody in a that's available within the libraries. That is a Gaelga officer that you can link in with there in the library as well. But even I know myself as a parent, a library can be a daunting place. So providing a list of maybe books that the children might be interested in to the parents would be a fantastic help to the parents in navigating the library. I know it's very daunting when you have children yourself in a library to even find books that may be of interest to them. Um, so they're just some of the suggested activities that you could be doing with parents. Again, signposting them to the Gaeilge resources would be very helpful as well. There's fantastic resources there on the COG Padlet that is actually linked on our own Padlet here as well this evening. And of course, they all will have access to Coola Cahir on their TV. And there's also resourced on gaelga.ie and ncca.ie. Alan, did you want to come in there on something else in relation to some good practice from your own experience?
Yeah, folks, as I said, parental involvement for someone who's been involved for dash camps for quite a long time now, well over 10 years, the parental involvement, it really is one of the most important, if not the most important element. You really do not understand the value of parental involvement if you haven't seen it. Okay, what you need to do is, as a teacher, an older teacher or a younger teacher, you're building or rebuilding those positive personal relationships with those most marginalized or most difficult families in your school. Parents love having their kids involved in dash camps for loads of reasons. But the thing that it does is it really empowers families. It brings families back to the school. It gives them a positive attitude towards you as a teacher, towards the school. It's a different environment. There's positivity in the summer camp. It's not the day-to-day slog of school for some of these kids. There's fun, engaging activities. And what you need to do is get the parents involved very early. And I get lots of emails at the start of every year asking me, how do you do this? What's the best way to increase the parental involvement? Because as I said, parents are nervous. Parents' experience of school can be different, especially in dash camps. And they're a wee bit shy to come forward and they're a wee bit reluctant to get involved. So you can start off quite easily. You could have the form for the summer camp. It can be a Google form. Send it home. Put some polls on there. What sort of music would you like us to do at the camp? What sort of art activities do you like? Maybe 2 or 3 choices. What sort of sports activities would you like? Do you think this is a good idea? Yes or no? It empowers the parents. It empowers the kids. It creates some buzz and excitement at home. The parents and the families begin to understand what's going to happen during summer camp. Oh, they're going to be doing this. Oh, you might be doing that. And that creates positivity, and the parental involvement can come from that. Some schools, as I said, have taken it the next step. I know my own school, the parents come in, they call into the school in the run up to the camp, and they're provided with an idea of what's going to happen. Maybe some resources, some activities, some things they can begin at home, and then they will be finished or finalized or brought to life during the actual summer camp itself. Again, empowering the parents, making them feel part of the whole thing. And as I said, the reason I really like this is, and the reason I wanted to come and speak about this is, it's not the summer where you'll see this value. It's not during the summer camp. There'll be great moments and there'll be positive moments with parents, but it's in the new year. It's in September when you have a difficult moment with a parent, when you have a child that's facing a challenge, and that positive personal relationship that you have built up with those families because they were in during summer camp and they had a great time and they got resources sent home and there was positivity involved. That's when you might need that parent to be on your side and say, oh, well, look, Mr. Nelson was good to me in the summer camp. We'll give him a bit of help here, we'll give him a bit of support here, we'll be on his side. That's what these dash camps are all about. It's about bringing the community into the school. It's about making parents feel involved, and it's about creating positivity around the school, around the kids, and all this sort of thing. So there's loads of ways you can do it. The camp booklet is there as well. You can modify it and change it to make it suit your school. Send it home every day. Ask for some positive reinforcement from the parents. Tell them to let you know, even smiley faces, ticking a box. Did you like this activity? Yes, no. What was your favorite thing you did today? What was something you wouldn't like to do anymore? What's something we might do next year? All these things are great. That communication with parents, that involving them, it can be done very simply, as I said, with the booklet, with the form, or in more detail by bringing the parents in. Try it out. Do your best just to make sure the parents are involved, because it really is a very important aspect of these camps.
Thanks, Alan. And it really, as you were talking there, it really struck me around, the importance of the whole theme of the camp, the confidence and connections piece, and the connections between, the parents being so key here, and it being a golden opportunity to really make those positive connections with those quite often very hard to reach parents. And, I know we keep referring back to the DEIS plan and being linked to the DEIS plan. And quite often in our schools, we kind of lose sight of the DEIS plan when we're teachers in our classrooms, and we leave that up to the principal to kind of think of. But one of the themes in the DEIS plan is that partnerships with parents and others. And it's about trying to make those connections with those hard to reach parents. And the more we can do that in those informal, building that confidence with them as well. So, even all of what Alan spoke about really spoke to the theme of the summer camp for this year. And it's about building confidence and connections in the school community as a whole, as not just the children themselves. Um, Criteria for learner outcomes. This again is taken from the booklet. Again, just really considering who your learners are that you have. And I know this was already spoken to. Who is it that you're inviting to the camp and what are their identified needs? So is it really language needs that you're building on, or are you thinking about more numeracy and mathematics being the needs? And again, reflecting back to possibly looking at what your DEIS plan, what is the focus of your DEIS plan in your school, and is there some way you could weave that in? So is the focus around oral language, or is the focus around literacy skills or something? So how is it linking to your DEIS plan? Making sure that the children have opportunities to talk about their learning and understanding and reflection, that the experiences that you're providing for them keep them motivated, and that they, it's really important that whatever they're doing, that they have a sense of achievement in what they are engaging in. So again, making meaningful links to the DEIS plan and the work at the school, and that the outcomes are monitored. And we'll talk a little bit about assessment in a minute. And I know, like, it doesn't sound like something that goes naturally with a summer camp assessment, but just to be always kind of mindful in terms of what you're engaging with the children. What is it that you want to see as an outcome from the activities that you're engaging with? Is there specific language that you want them to have learned? Is there specific numeracy skills that you want them to have learned? And they can be done through playful experiences, being out playing football, or playing board games inside, or engaging with some digital learning. And then again, we've talked about the growing confidence in the use of Gaeilge as well. Okay, so talking about that assessment piece, again, just draw on your own knowledge of assessment in the classroom and, tailor it to suit the activities that you're doing in the camp. So all of those different assessment activities that you use, like checklists, rubrics, 2 stars and a wish, they really want the children as well to, again, have a voice in planning the camp, but they should also know at the start of maybe an activity, what you can have those activities like Walt and Wilf, what we're looking for, what's the intended learning. So even sharing those with the children, what they're working towards achieving in the activity, or maybe in the course of the week, and having a summing up at the end of the week of all the fantastic learning that happened. But allowing opportunities for some self-assessment and peer assessments to happen throughout the camp. And just as I said, tailoring some of those approaches, as Alton outlined earlier, we're not replicating a classroom environment where we're sitting for a literacy lesson or whatever. So we're trying to tailor some of those approaches that you generally use in the classroom, like 2 stars and a wish. Pupil voice being so important, and getting that feedback on the ground off them constantly. Like, did you like that lesson? Give me 2 things about it that you liked, that activity, and 1 thing that you'd like to improve. And there's nothing great than being able to model taking feedback from a child when they tell you they didn't like it. You know what I mean? And being able to take that on the chin and go, right, well, we'll try and change that up for tomorrow. So the self-assessment and the peer assessment and the 2 stars and a wish, those activities are so important because they give the child that voice in their learning and the activities that they're engaging with through the camp. And they will give you lots of invaluable information as to what's working well and maybe what could be done differently. Stephen's going to talk a little bit now to playful and engaging learning experiences.
Okay, yeah. So I suppose just to touch on the bones of it, when it comes to playful learning experiences, you really want the children to be highly engaged, in playful learning activities, working together, working collaboratively. Tasks that they're going to be challenged, they'll enjoy, but they'll be able for them, if that makes sense. You think of real life problem solving, okay, everyday problems. Try to instill, I suppose, that sense of ownership and responsibility, that it's them that took part in the learning. Okay, they got there. All right. So yeah, we'll move on now, Kate, to the characteristics, I suppose, there's a number of characteristics that are common in play and playful experiences. So play is active, okay, and children use their bodies and their minds during play to interact with the environment, with material, and with other people. Okay. When it comes to adventurous and risky, I suppose that even that pretend element that offers a safety net that encourages children to take risks. Okay, communication. Children communicate through their play. Okay, by sharing information and knowledge. So this kind of communication can be verbal and non-verbal. Okay, it can be simple or complex, enjoyable that's I think Ulton touched that at the very start of it. This is a camp. It has to be enjoyable, okay? It has to be fun, exciting. It has to involve a sense of humor as well. Okay, for some of the children, as Ulton touched on, it's their camp. It's like their summer holiday. It's their week to really enjoy. Meaningful, yeah, absolutely meaningful. For children, it's based on what they've seen and heard, and what they know. Okay, I suppose play helps children to build and extend their knowledge. Okay, their understanding and skills in a way that kind of makes sense to them. Okay, and the last one is was sociable and interactable, absolutely, with others, but just obviously always remember sometimes, okay, children do like to like and need to play alone by themselves, okay, and after when you think the time is right, call them back in when it's time to maybe go in groups or pairs or groups again. But yeah, it's absolutely okay if they need that time alone to play. If you want to move on, Kate, to the role of the teacher, that's okay. So yeah, they are, suppose when we do use playful and engaging approaches, there are some considerations to be taken into account. Okay, the first one, I suppose, is a good pedagogical content knowledge. Okay, Kate, will just flick through them as I'm talking. Just to be clear on what the child, what the children want to learn and experience. Okay, open-ended questions. All right, that can be useful to allow the teacher, into the play scenario, or drama. Okay, resources. Very simply, just be practical on your resources. Okay, what is it? What resources are in the school? Okay, what are suitable resources there that you have at hand to use? Okay, you're creating scenarios based on the children's interests and curiosities. That's good child-centered practice. Okay, your safe space is next. Just be conscious that this is a safe space both physically and in terms of accepted behaviors. Okay, that helps really create a positive kind of a classroom and a whole school culture. And the last one is extremely important. Again, I know we said about the camp and children having fun. Don't be afraid to let down your guard as teachers. Okay, let the children know that you're there enjoying these playful and engaging approaches along with them. Okay, it is a summer holidays. It's camp. It's not. We're not in the classroom. Okay, so absolutely, do let down your guard. Going to go into maths now, Kate, if that's okay. You can see from the screen there on the bottom left image there of the 5 pedagogical practices that in the new primary maths curriculum. Okay, you've promoting maths talk. You have the use of cognitively challenging tasks, encouraging mathematical modeling, encouraging playfulness, and fostering productive disposition. Okay, they are rooted in research and acknowledged as essential, to the provision of quality mathematical learning experiences. Okay, they do foster an inclusive learning environment and culture, where children engage in rich and meaningful learning processes. Okay, the document then on the top right hand corner of your slide is an inclusive approach to learning, teaching and assessment in primary mathematics. Okay, it's taken from the NCCA toolkit. Okay, it states that very clearly that every child, okay, is mathematical and should progress learning in diverse and non-linear ways. Okay, that's very important. Okay, each child will enter the mathematical learning experience at different stages. Okay, they take different approaches to their mathematical interactions, okay, and expressions. They have diverse ways of making sense of maths and achieve their learning goals like in different ways, okay. Maths learning, it is enhanced in a play environment that provides opportunities for exploration, investigation, challenge, choice, creativity, and independence, okay. Okay, so try and when you're thinking of your activities, look through that lens of playfulness, okay. Just going to touch on the next slide, Kate, when it comes to the primary maths curriculum again, and that learning outcome sentence stem. Okay, you can have a little read of it there. Through appropriate, playful, and engaging learning experiences, children should be able to. Okay, that sentence stem, that learning outcome sentence stem, is across all stages. Okay, in the new primary maths curriculum, playful learning is appropriate to all learners. Okay, all children, not just at stages 1 and 2, right across from junior infants right up to 6th class. Okay, when children engage in play during a maths lesson, they're more engaged. Okay, they feel less threatened, and they will eventually, encourage risk taking and opportunities to deepen, their understanding and thus improve their mathematical proficiency. Okay, you can see the maths processes of play. You see them on screen. They're testing, discovering, revising, extending, combining. transforming. They're all appropriate for children all across stages of primary and special education setting. Okay. Um, but so by really infusing playfulness into learning experiences, children are encouraged to, and they will develop that productive disposition towards that subject, and in this case, maths. Okay, I think you already highlighted, Kate, anyway, all the resources that are available on the Padlet, and there's so many of them there when it comes to numeracy as well. So I would spend time to just have a pick and choose through them, and you'll absolutely, you'll take great joy in some of the and using some of the content and resources there on that Padlet. I'm going to bring back in David now, I think, Kate, if that's okay. David is going to talk through some of his own experiences from the DEIS summer program.
Thanks a million,
That's
Stephen.
great.
Thanks
No
very
problem, David.
much.
Okay, David.
And good evening, folks. So I'm delighted to be talking to you this evening. So just very briefly, my context. So I'm principal of, I suppose, a large urban DEIS school in Drogheda, County Louth. We are running and we have run the DEIS summer camp. And I've had various involvements with the program over the past, I think it's 7 or 8 years now at this stage. So hopefully some of the practical examples that I'll share with you will be helpful to you. We've done some things previously that we feel were very successful. We've done others that, upon reflection, we would tweak and change as we go. So hopefully you'll take something from the next few minutes. Just while I'm talking, there will be photos scrolling in the background there. So, and look, as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. You can see that the examples even already of the joy, the fun, the excitement that happens through the DEIS Summer Camp program. Look, 2 points I want to make at the outset about this is one is about the supports that are available to you all. When others were talking there, I've been looking at the chat function and the Q&A function, and understandably, there are lots of questions arising, like there are in my own school with my colleagues. I want you to know firsthand how supportive the team are. You've been introduced to Alan and Dahi there, but there are so many people in the background that are working on this and will provide answers for you in relation to various aspects. There are no silly questions. There's a wealth of information on the Padlet. So my first piece of experience is please rely heavily on the team and on the Padlet. Second nugget pardon any pun that I give you, is our to link in with your school meals provider. If it's a thing that you are going with school meals on your camp, have a conversation with your rep. We talk to our rep regularly. For example, I know Alan spoke earlier about parental involvement. I'm a strong advocate for having a parent performance. Maybe you might ask your school meal provider to provide refreshments for that. In my experience, they're only too happy to do that, free of charge. So that could be useful. Just in terms of the practicalities, that's one nugget as well, where I would have fallen down that pitfall before. When the camp is finishing up, everyone breathes a sigh of relief. There's a sense of accomplishment, there's tiredness, and everything in between. But please do remember to do the admin that needs to be done in terms of simple things like processing the wages for staff, filling out the attendance sheets, etc. And the camp form. I know Stephen was talking about numeracy there. I just want to give you one or two quick examples when we're talking about numeracy. A key part or a key component of the summer camp program is that the children would be seen as co-designers of the camp. So let's say you're planning some sort of a parent activity, whether it's a parent performance, even bringing mathematical language into the planning of that with the children, even do we set out the seats in rows? How many do we need in rows, for example? So bringing mathematical language in as part and parcel of your camp it's so easy. It doesn't have to be an academic type activity. It's just making it part of your day-to-day camp. Other things that I found useful in the past were orienteering, both putting together an orienteering program and taking part in it, helps that mathematical language to come to the fore. Other things that I felt were pretty useful. Long jump. So even engaging in a long jump competition, there's mathematical language needed there in terms of the measures, strand of the curriculum. I suppose calculating who's the winner, calculating what the next jump should or could be. So there are lots of examples. I know that in a room of so many participants, there'll be so many innovative examples. And I do know and I do hope that this time next year we'll have more pictures of some of the innovative activities that you've planned throughout your camp. So, look, I'm going to pass back to Kate, who's going to take you through the next section.
Thanks a million, David. And just building on some of the pieces there that David spoke to around language experiences, and you're just to give you a little bit of background as to why you might, really need to focus in on language. And this is some research. It's a little bit dated at this stage, but still relevant. So you can see on screen there just two pieces there. A child at age 6, a typical child from a mid-ranking socioeconomic background will know about 10,000 to 11,000 words. And at age 6, a child from a socially disadvantaged background may know as few as 2,500 words. So I suppose it's just to really kind of focus the mind a little bit on, what we're trying to achieve here through the camp. We're really focusing on building, those solid language experiences for children, so that they get to experience like a wide variety of language and use that language as well in a meaningful way. So are kind of few things that I'm going to talk about here, just disciplinary literacy. So some of you might be very aware of this. It's part of the language specification, but just going to briefly talk around disciplinary literacy. Thinking about opportunities to develop language across the curriculum, and David gave a fantastic example of how you can develop language across the curriculum there in terms of maths. And then we should be consistently thinking about how we can incorporate language into playful learning experiences. And on the Padlet, we have this resource here, the Let's Talk resource. You can have a look at that as well. It's actually part of the STEM one, so it's one of those resources that actually helps you to bring language across the curriculum as well. So all of those times really thinking about how are we developing the language, what language specifically even are we trying to hone in on through our activities with the children. So again, looking at disciplinary literacy and vocabulary, if we look here at this tier 1, 2, and 3 level words. So for tier 1 words, these are words learned from everyday experiences. So for example, walk, dog, tired, and some of our learners, this will be the level that they're at. They have a lot of tier 1 words. And then as we're heading up the tiers, tier 2 words are things like that appear frequently in texts, are less common in conversations. So a lot of our learners in our schools may not have many tier 2 words. So, you might be focusing on building their tier 2 words, which are things like, for example, very descriptive words like ferocious, astonished, words that you might see in text like investigate, observe. And then our tier 3 words are low frequency in everyday use words. And these are the ones that you might see across disciplinary literacy. So they're subject specific words and are learnt in context. So you need to provide those contexts for them to actually learn those words. So words like photosynthesis, archaeologist, those type of words. So really be cognizant of, where are our learners at? What do we want to build them towards? Are they, very much in the tier 1 space and we're trying to build them up towards tier 2? Or are we really explicitly teaching a lot more tier 1 words to these children? Are we even moving up towards tier 3? And I'm going to show you a lovely example in a moment of children working through disciplinary literacy in their summer camp in a moment, in a video that really highlights it. So again, those tier 3 words, there's lots of opportunities that you can engage in with the children, in terms of subject specific words through some of those resources that you can find in the library or that might be in your own libraries themselves, but different genres of texts that allow for the use of those disciplinary literacy words, and even lots of the activities that they might do through their visits, maybe on their visit, if they go on a visit to a museum or if they go on a visit, to the park, what are the opportunities there to develop those tier 2 and 3 words, and what words specifically would you like to hone in on and speak about and use consistently on those visits to the park or to the library or to the museum or whatever it is that you're doing. This is a lovely example from one of the camps of the children engaging in some archaeological exploration, and you can see from this example that the children are using both tier 2 and tier 3 vocabulary.
We are working a lot on our history skills in school this year. Last year we set up the school museum and we have lots of artifacts and we have timelines in every classroom.
So when summer camp came, we decided to do a history project. Our project is called Time Detective! We wanted to be real archaeologists and do a dig. Out in our outdoors learning centre, we set up sand pit archaeology. Each of us has a grid. Archaeologists use travels! As soon as we touch an artifact, we begin removing the sand.
We put the sand into the sieve to make sure we didn't miss any small artifacts.
Next, we put the spoil in the spoil box.
We use a brush to get the outline of an artifact. We bring it to the fine string.
Finally, we'll record our findings and describe exactly what they were. We will label them in the classroom.
We try to guess based on the artifact who they belong to, but this time, it's
Ancient Greece! I'm going to hand you over to Dahi again, who's just going to come in a little bit there on the is Féidir Lum, is Féidir Lynn Osh there, and also some of the Oshna, Clara Fall, Aaron Padlet, agus on it's a box.
Agus gur míle mágat Kate, agus tusan go an chud freigraí do listeach sin in the webinar chat. Agus Aileen gur míle mágat. The important thing this year is because many of the schools, before I get into this, have not actually had their official training yet on the childcare. The fact of the matter is that we're referring you directly to the IDA website, which is the where to go. And if in doubt, go back into the webinar chat there and see what link Aileen has put up. Look, ceann rudí is tábhachtí tarú rístim líana and all is Féidir Lum is Féidir Linn. I suppose that was Rob from Obama when he came over. Duh. Yeah, right. But tá the kind of plan gníomh don Gaeilge is called Meán Béarla. What we're going to do right now is in the chat. Remember, the Padlet has so much, as Kate has pointed out, and as Alan have pointed out. Agus Kamala Shinla, Stephen, agus David. Tom Machin is stig on. There's so many links in that. But kids love to have fun. And the important thing is Gaeilge Gachéin Law. Again, if you're running a shop and you're running the prizes, I mean, the idea of looking for Gaeilge or an lay, getting kids doing this, giving them those little tickets so they can go to the shop because of the way that the DEIS plan is encouraging them to have advocacy, to have voice as Gaeilge, agus ag an gena ver pártachán, ver mar cuid den a campitag tarlú. Tommy kind for the 5-minute chang and agus na nahana I rihan lay. We put stuff up in the Dropbox in DWEC Cuma, or the will the Haberty in Igan lay, Haberty ag Sulagar Fedlat Usad Onlu and Gudianina, or whether it's Gudian Hedin, Gudian Vort. But again, remember 5 full days and you've got your 4 hours of instruction. Sussna splodrika, Maradurmer I re am loan, Gumegan Tomshin and Truckanamachin, like crack, like sport, like kjol. Like Dausa, beidir go méid sin ag fálam árán ó I mean, it doesn't matter. Tá na chud rudí ar cúla car, tá na chud rudí ar YouTube, tá yoga ar YouTube, agus tá méid sin do rudí deasa as Gaeilge gur féidir le páistí bheith mar chuide, agus bheith feimúla gin an ggéana, agus cumala sin go bhfuil siad ná beidir an cúpla facha Gaeilge úsáid, go méid an siopa scola ann, agus mar sin mar dúras beidir go méid animalacha na rudí gur féidir le cinach leis na biléid nó leis na digéid sin as Gaeilge, gabhfuil leis cil, seap, bavalium. And you're going to use bavalium, bavalium X, bavalium show yenov. Tell me, show me, prove it. On rave cummersod, ear cummersod, as they call it, lua cummersod, ear cummersod. Na rudi shingalair. Oxen toriach tashke. We've actually put up on the Dropbox, Toriach Tashke, full idea of all the trails, Ascaig agus Asperle in numeracy, literacy, well-being agus digital. Agus is féidir le páistí dul amach sa clós, agus QR codes a úsáid. Agus má tána na tablets go gur féidir le scanálaí anamh an QR code agus bheith ólas an seo an crown dar, seo an scéal a tháinig cuaing onscoil seo an rud atá gceist an seoghrín. So ag úsáid na Gaelna agus páistí ag crothúil ahead. QR codes are great má tá tóiríocht taisce ar siúla agat or using your trails. Again, tá rudaí umlána ar fáil agus tá na links le chursús going on the Padlet agus ar Dropbox. Téisteach den íoslódáil, whether it's a chlárama, whether it's Táman a chain faoi tóiríocht taisce, whether an ordaí town faoi na hachfaní agsúla town. Agus má tá tú chain faoi toplúid nó na pad gailge a bú, sport a bú, nó daus a bú, bíag sin mar fallí limní, or bíag sin mar úmsí na hinseir, or an bhíd se chatte in Killinarden an rud bhíad na Sambanarden. So bhíidir ag gáilta na sambas ar na drumí agus bhíidir ag canna ascaige, gach éon lá ag amlóm, agus bhíidir ag cuma áráin. And that's where suno.com comes in again. Agus tá kind of nasc sin a chursúas. So is féidir is féidir ling, online and sin, is laur íntacha sin le anacuid rudí splóidracha, anacuid rudí on alam on chrí, con an gaige curcul sin. And all the áisne are there. Alan has referred to them. Hús an sin bar na lávidesha. That's what we call Miss Yoga. You go into YouTube, there she is, flaking it out, gach ein modern. Yoga and shin, takula carong, tan a busy break shield on she. I mean, tan the meter down. Louis Kid agus Louis gach ein den YouTube, but tan the hashne dun reige galer erlina. We've actually chosen 25 websites for chuig in a will na hashne shinam agus I galer regle hislodal. But remember, we come back again. Gone, vroo, gone, stress. It's crack. It's sport. It's tanta chain fwy páistí agus múintóirí. It's your blatant holidays. Buin tatnav os. Shushans Marador Dallin. Kun an sprid desh. A horty stock. Onus gomeg to an on. Dailá lish na lani sho. Sna skulna desh levéil ella. Agus tá na háisne go léir ann. So, all right, lad, Kate.
Margaret, bye. So just again, even considerations for EAL learners, and I know I touched on some of these already, but provide multiple means for engagement and expression with your EAL learners in the school. So if you're, if you're including EAL learners in your camp, provide as much opportunities as possible with their peers to, engage, to, sing, to dance, to be in role plays, to be in outdoor sports. And the characteristics of play that we mentioned earlier should all be considered when you're planning for EAL learners. Be intentional as well about the vocabulary. So going back on that piece again about the tier level words, and again, even thinking, when somebody's learning a language, consistently, using the same word over and over again, that you're intentional about using that word. I was talking about it there in Gaeilge that we're going to focus on Boahlum, and the same goes for the Berla as well, for EAL learners, that you're focusing in on. If it's like, if kick is the word that you're focusing in, it's like kick the ball, that's a great kick, well done, fantastic kick it out again, or whatever, so that they're hearing that word all the time, and you're giving them opportunities as well to use that vocabulary as well. Just thinking there as well, I spoke about it earlier with your culturally and linguistically diverse parents. Same for the children as well. Make sure that you have some access to the translation tools and software or for communication, especially if some of them are very newly arrived to the country, that there is some access there for both them and yourselves for those to use those tools. And value the home language of the learner. This is so important, and I know it'll be coming in your Language Awareness Day. There's a whole heap of research around language and how, the home language of our learners is so important. It's so important to value. It's part of their cultural identity. It's also the skills that they learn from their home language are transferable over to their other languages. So it's very important that we view our EAL learners as from a strengths-based approach and value their home language and give them opportunities to use their home language and speak in their home language. It is appropriate for them to be using their own home language. So if they're speaking to other children who speak the same home language as they do during the camp, allow for that. Do not correct them. Do not tell them they cannot speak that language. I think if we were told if I said to Dahi, can you speak only English, please? I think, you're impacting on that person's sense of self and their cultural identity. So absolutely, they should be allowed to use their home language, but there should be intentional opportunities for them built to build their English language skills as well. Um, Lastly, also, especially if they don't have somebody that they're speaking their home language to, that we provide brain breaks for them, if necessary. So, I know Stephen talked about earlier that sometimes children might like to play alone for a little while. So it can be very overwhelming if you think about it yourself. If you were immersed in a language that you might have very limited skills in for the whole entire day, your head would be melted by the end of the day. So it is important that children are afforded time. Maybe if they want to go look at something in their own language on a computer, or put some headphones on, or just have some quiet time as well, because they are actually probably processing what's going on throughout the course of the day, because they're working on translating what's happening into their own language as well. So just being very mindful of that, but at the same time creating very intentional experiences for them to develop their English language skills as well. I'm going to come back to David here, who's going to talk about playful literacy experiences within his own schools and give you some lovely examples again.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, folks. So just want to make a couple of points here in relation to playful literacy, and a point or two then as well about EAL exposure in my own experience and in my experience of some other schools that have taken part in this program. Because of the smaller numbers that we'll have, and because of the playful setting, it stands to reason that there are so many opportunities for language exposure completely, like, across the curriculum. It doesn't have to be in a set conventional literacy lesson. But some examples, and you can see it on the slide there at the moment. Getting a storyteller or an author to come into the school can be a fantastic way. It can generate so much excitement, that whole love of reading, that love of literacy. And because of the smaller numbers, I found that it can create that whole immersive dialogic type approach, where the children will be consolidating their language and asking questions, and more likely to, I suppose, put themselves forward to speak. Um, you know, we're all aware of costs and the costs of transport and so on and so forth. Great example that actually I came across in Alan's school in Dundalk is, I know they would have invited the local library van, the county library, have a mobile service. Maybe it's something that you could look at contacting your local library and asking them, could they visit you? Okay, because what better way than to promote that whole, exposure to text and promoting the wonder and joy of books. Maybe depending on your geography or your location, it could be suitable for you to even walk into your local library, which would be fantastic as well. Absolutely. One thing I would say about that, if you're planning on going to your local library, lift the phone and let them know. I've gone down that path before, where I arrived in with a group, and I suppose, look, being fair on it, and upon reflection, it probably would have been fairer on everybody if I had have given them a bit of advance warning. So please do lift the phone in that regard. Um, as Dahi was saying earlier on, each county library has an Othigach Gaeilge, who I know will be delighted to talk to you and to engage with you as Gaeilge must me into. So that's something to keep in mind too. Um, it's been mentioned a number of times about the whole sense of agency, the sense of autonomy, and again, having pupils, as co-designers of the camp, things like, and we're thinking of our EAL learners here. If you were having a parent performance, maybe it's making dual language or multi-language posters to create awareness of the performance. Maybe it's making multi-language posters in a general sense that could be used around the school. Last point I want to make about literacy is, let's say you were doing a cooking activity or a baking activity in your school, even that whole procedural language of giving instructions, or, pairing up and talking about the procedure involved, that can be brilliant in terms of allowing opportunities for repeated and multiple exposures to procedural language. And as Beck McKeown Cookin said a few slides back, we do know that children from a lower socioeconomic background need that input. So that could be helpful in that regard. I notice our photos have beaten me to the finish line, so I'm going to hand you back to Kate here for a few moments.
Thanks, William David. And just something else about the library, again, maybe organising a collection from the library or a talk, so that the parents can actually come in to the library. And again, having, as David said, setting that up with the library themselves, because quite often the parents mightn't be aware, or might find that the library is a daunting prospect to go into. But if they have that lovely welcoming environment, and that those officers that are there to support them and to help them if they were to come in, and maybe even a talk from that person, if it was possible, a talk from that person to the parents about how they can support them if they were to come into the library, because there are fantastic facilities in the local libraries in a lot of the communities. So even to try and break down that barrier, and that's the big thing within DEIS, to try and break down barriers for the parents as well, and to see that the people there in the libraries are there to support them, and all the Oshna that are available to them there to access as well. So just again, the library being one of them, but going back to creating criteria for varied learning environments. So just thinking, extending beyond the classroom, we've talked a lot about that. We're thinking about inquiry-based experiential learning, and even your literal the little example there of the archaeological dig. That's an example again as well. There's so many things that is linking to cross-curricularly, but that's an example as not only of disciplinary literacy in action, but also inquiry-based experiential learning, and having a clear focus on the target language and the learning outcomes. So again, being clear in your mind about what is the target language that you want here, and what is the outcomes that you want for the children. We've already talked a lot already about making use of the library resources. Again, thinking of some of the digital tools, and again, these are available on the Padlet. So, I spoke about a museum trip. You mightn't be anywhere near a museum, but there are some fantastic virtual museum tours that you can engage in. You could look at the digital storytelling creators, storyboard or book creator, and again, thinking about maybe dual language. You could have the Gaeilge Fitcha there, you could have some of the home languages Fitcha there, and you could think about looking at, we had talked about digital scavenger hunt. I know Dahi talked about that earlier. There's some nature exploration apps. You could create animations, simple animations. And I know from experience myself, that's a full week project, creating an animation, because it can be a slow enough process. So just give yourselves plenty of time on that front if you go down that road. But there are things like that Coma for iPads. There's a few other of those apps available as well. But any of that animation creation or movie creation, the children absolutely love it, even if they make their own dramas. I know in the past I've done things like they made up their own advertisements for products that they'd made up themselves, and they did advertisements for those products. So just all of those things that really are engaging, and they're getting to use lots of language in them. Again, robotics, you can see the picture of the bee bots there on screen, and some of you might have access to different types of robotics or Lego robotics as well within your school. So just using the resources that are available to you there. And I suppose everything is to just ensure that there's enjoyment in this space. So I'll just hand you back to David again there, that might want to talk through a few of those things.
Thanks, Kate. Look, I suppose just to take a quick breath at this point, and if we think about the slide there, the word cloud that's just passed, a huge aspect of this DEIS summer camp program is that enjoyment piece. There is so much on that slide, but I'm just going to speak to a few aspects of that while the pictures are showing. I know, look, and I'm talking about my own experience as principal and the experience of my colleagues in relation to this. It can be easy in the weeks leading up to the camp to get bogged down in preparations and procedures and so on and so forth. But the word cloud that was on there a few moments ago, there are so many links and positives to be had from this camp. From talking to any teacher that's been involved with it, it is a really, really enjoyable experience, and so it should be. Yes, the key focus of the summer camp program is developing literacy and numeracy, but there's also a huge opportunity, as has been said throughout this evening session, I suppose, to raise the profile and raise the perception of what the boys and girls in your school think of school. It creates that positive disposition. So that's a really great thing. Just in terms of some enjoyable activities that we hope to run in the year ahead of my own school, some of these might be helpful for you. I know we're doing a bit of gardening in our school. There's a flower bed that I've got a little bit out of hand close to the front of the school. And I know that the pride of place that the boys and girls in my school are already talking about, having an opportunity to be part of overhauling that is something that they're looking forward to. We've linked in with our local sports partnership. They have told us that they will come to the school and give some table tennis lessons. So I don't know about your school, but table tennis wouldn't be Drogheda is not a stronghold of table tennis in my experience anyway, so it's that'll be an enjoyable thing. Um, and look, on the word cloud again, there were so many examples that hopefully this time next year we can add to even further, like a visit to the local cafe, drumming workshops, beach combing, and so on and so forth. But what I would say to you is, you know your own location best. So have a think about, what works best in your locality. And look, I really hope it's a positive experience for you. Just before I wrap up, I just want to say again, there's so much support available to you. So please don't feel that you're on your own with that. Look, the very best of luck to you in the weeks ahead, and I'll pass you back to Ulton there to conclude.
We've been frantically trying to answer questions there, and I hope we've answered all your questions as well as we can. There, everybody would have received the link to the documents from the department, and we're instructed that people follow the department guidelines on all issues. That being said, I think today you got a real grasp of the kind of innovative, fun learning environment you can create for the children on the summer camps. They're a camp that's there to help the children with literacy and numeracy, but our emphasis is always on fun. Sports, brí agus sult a bhainteas. Building confidence and connections is the theme this year from the department, and there's no better way to do that than through the community in which the children live every day in their school. Those school communities that the children oftentimes in our DEIS camps depend on more than others. And I would like to thank you sincerely, not only for, I suppose, coming along here this evening, but giving time during your holidays to help the children in your schools and to help the communities that you serve. It's admirable work, it's fantastic work, and you are to be commended. Just to wrap up, I suppose the key words that spring into my mind are keep it fun and active, keep co-creating with the students and their parents if possible, follow the checklist. So if you, as Dahi said, if you read the manual, follow the department directions, you won't go far wrong if you have that checklist sorted, and just peace of mind for yourself. Even look at an inspector comes in, wants to see it, it's all there in the front of the folder and sorted. The classroom, the virtual, and the outdoors are the three places in which the action will happen. And those, I suppose, that triumvirate of location and flipping between each will work, particularly for children who like difference in their day. It's a different setup, the summer camp. The kids are coming in more relaxed. They're in their own gear. Please God, the weather will be good, big and green and tannive, and they'll be wearing their shorts and their t-shirts, and the teachers can be more relaxed in their attire as well. And that will add that sense of camaraderie that's often on the summer camps. There's an emphasis this year from the department, which look, most schools have been doing anyway, is to have an element of Gaeilge, teach them an hour on Gaeilge, use the words, during the day, tagi ishtap, bictunola gwen, tashin and on loan, all that stuff. It's really, really helpful to have the Gaeilge fitcha fucha treat. But I think if you capture those overarching principles that we have there, you won't go far wrong. But I would also implore you to enjoy it yourselves. I know there's a responsibility once you're looking after children, but try and enjoy it yourselves. You're giving of your time.